Have you ever wondered how you would start a fire in a survival situation? It's a question that can spark some deep thoughts. Fire, after all, is one of humanity's oldest and most essential survival tools. It's a beacon of warmth in the biting cold, a means to cook food and sterilize water, and a powerful signal to attract help in case of an emergency. But there's something more to fire than just its practical uses. There's a psychological aspect to it. Sitting around a roaring fire can bring a sense of comfort and security, even in the most dire circumstances. The flickering flames can be a source of hope, reminding us of the resilience of the human spirit. Fire, in its essence, is a symbol of survival. So it's clear that knowing how to start a fire is not just handy, it's crucial. Now let's dive into how you can do it. Before you start a fire, it's important to know what you need. So let's get into the meat of it. To get a fire going, you need 4 essential ingredients: a fire starter, some tinder, kindling, and fuel. These are the building blocks of a good fire, so let's break them down, shall we? First up, the fire starter. This could be a match, a lighter, or even a fancy fire striker if you're feeling adventurous. This is your spark, the catalyst that's going to get your fire going. It's important to keep your fire starter protected because without it, you're going to have a tough time getting anything to burn. Next, we have tinder. Now, I'm not talking about the dating app. Tinder in the fire starting world is small, dry, easily flammable material that catches your fire starter's spark and helps it grow into a flame. Dry leaves, small twigs, even some types of fungus or shredded paper, these can all be great tinder. The key here is dry. Damp tinder will smother your spark and leave you out in the cold. Moving on to kindling. These are your small sticks, a bit bigger than your tinder, but not by much. The purpose of kindling is to take the small flame from your tinder and help it grow bigger and stronger. Like with tinder, your kindling should be dry. If it's damp or green, it'll produce more smoke than flame, and that's not what we want. Last but not least, we have fuel. These are your larger logs, the big boys that are going to keep your fire burning long into the night. Your fuel needs to be dry too, but it can handle a bit more moisture than your tinder or kindling. Once your fire is going strong, it can dry out slightly damp logs and keep on burning. With your tools and materials ready, you're set to start a fire. It's as simple as that. Fire starting is a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice. So get out there, gather your materials, and start practicing. Who knows, you might just become a fire starting expert in no time. You've got your tools and materials, now it's time to prepare the fire site. So where to begin? Start by choosing the right location for your fire. Ideally, you want a spot that's shielded from the wind, not too close to trees or shrubs, and away from any other flammable materials. Remember, safety first. Once you've found the perfect spot, clear the area of any debris, sweep away leaves, twigs, and anything else that could potentially catch fire. You're aiming for a clean, flat surface where your fire can safely burn without risk of spreading. Next, let's talk about creating a fire bed. If you're in a snowy or wet environment, you'll want to lay down a platform of green branches to insulate your fire from the cold ground. In other settings, a simple bed of dry leaves or grass will do the trick. The goal here is to create a base that will help your fire burn longer and more efficiently. Now, with the fire bed ready, it's time to arrange your materials. Start with your tinder. That's the small, dry, easily ignitable material. Place a small pile of tinder in the center of your fire bed. Then, arrange your kindling, small sticks and twigs, in a teepee shape around your tinder. Remember, fire needs 3 things to survive: heat, fuel, and oxygen. Your tinder and kindling provide the heat and fuel, but it's the structure of your fire that allows oxygen to flow. That's why the teepee shape is so important. It leaves space for air to circulate, helping your fire breathe and burn. As a final touch, place your larger firewood nearby, but not on the fire yet. You'll add these pieces later, once your fire is established. And there you have it, a well-prepared fire site, ready to host a fire that can keep you warm, cook your food, and signal for help if needed. With your site prepared, it's time to ignite your fire. Now comes the exciting part, igniting the fire. The dance of flames is just moments away, and it all starts with a spark. So you've got your tinder, your kindling, and your fuel. These are the 3 musketeers of fire building. First, you want to light your tinder. Think of it as the small stuff like dry grass, leaves, or bark. You want to cradle it in your hand and introduce it to your spark or flame. Be patient. It might take a few tries. Once it catches, you have a glowing ember, the heartbeat of your fire. Next, you add your kindling. These are slightly bigger pieces, like small twigs or sticks. They're the bridge between your tinder and your fuel. Arrange them loosely over the tinder, allowing for good airflow. You'll see the flames start to grow and dance. Then it's time to bring in the heavy hitters, the fuel. We're talking about larger pieces of wood here. Start with smaller pieces and gradually add larger ones. The key is to build slowly, allowing each piece to catch before adding the next. Remember, fire needs three things to survive: fuel, oxygen, and heat. So make sure it gets plenty of air and keep feeding it at a steady pace. Once your fire is going, it's all about maintaining it. But we'll dive into that in the next scene. For now, sit back and enjoy the warmth and light of your handiwork. Your fire is alive and well. Now, how do you keep it that way? First off, let's remember that a fire, like any living thing, needs to eat. And what's on the menu? Fuel, of course. As your fire starts to diminish, add small pieces of dry wood to keep it burning steadily. However, be cautious not to smother it by adding too much at once. The fire needs room to breathe. That brings us to our next point: monitoring. Keeping an eye on your fire is crucial. If it's too small, it might go out; too big, and it might become dangerous. Strive for a happy medium, a fire that's just right to serve your needs, whether that's cooking, warmth, or signaling. Now let's talk safety. Never leave your fire unattended. It's not just about maintaining the fire, it's about maintaining your safety and the safety of your surroundings. The last thing you want is for your fire to get out of control, so keep a perimeter around it, clear of anything that might catch fire. And always have a plan to extinguish it quickly if needed. Lastly, remember that a well-maintained fire is not just a survival tool, but a companion that can offer comfort, warmth, and a sense of security in the wilderness. With these steps, you can keep your fire going for as long as you need it. When it's time to move on or sleep, you'll need to extinguish your fire properly. This is an essential step, not just for your safety, but also for preserving the environment. So let's talk about how to do this right. First off, you'll need to start by letting the fire die down naturally. This means stop adding fuel to it and let the flames reduce on their own. It's a waiting game at this point, but it's an important part of the process. While you're waiting, you can prepare for the next step. Gather some water if you have it, but don't pour it directly onto the fire just yet. Doing so can create a cloud of ash and smoke that can be harmful if inhaled. Instead, sprinkle the water over the embers, doing this slowly and carefully. As you sprinkle the water, stir the embers around with a stick or some other tool. This will help distribute the water and cool down the embers more quickly. But remember, safety first. Be sure to keep a safe distance to prevent any embers from landing on you. Now, the water is not always available, especially in a survival situation. If you don't have any, sand or dirt can be used instead. Just like with water, you'll want to sprinkle the sand or dirt over the embers and stir them around. The goal here is to eliminate heat. To check this, place the back of your hand near the ash. If you can still feel heat, the fire isn't out yet. Continue adding water, sand, or dirt and stirring the embers until there's no heat left. It's crucial to be absolutely sure that the fire is out before leaving the area. Lastly, clean up the site, scatter the cool ashes around to minimize your impact on the environment. This is an important step in practicing leave no trace principles, which are fundamental for any survivalist. There you have it, from start to finish, the basics of starting and maintaining a fire in a survival situation. Fire is a powerful tool, but with power comes responsibility. Remember, safety first, always.